Everyone, my name is Luna. Welcome to my channel. I've been a tarot reader for over 4.5 years, and I like to do true crime and sometimes popular culture readings. My cat here, Quentin, he's here for emotional support because today's a bit of a heavy reading that I wanted to do. So recently I've been really interested in the Maldives diving accident that happened on May 14th. And what happened is about five people from the University of Genoa, led by a very prominent diver and researcher at that university. They went to the Maldives. They were there for coral research, but for some reason they went on this expedition down into a cave system known as Shark Cave. Now, going to Shark Cave meant that they would have to go about double the recreational limit, which is about 30. I think they did have two people on the team that were allowed to go a bit deeper, and I think the cave system was still deeper than that. Now, the other thing is that they did not have the proper equipment. You're supposed to have special cave diving tanks and stuff when you go scuba diving at that limit, but they had sort of like the regular recreational scuba tanks. And so that's one of the questions that people have. So the other thing is that there's three chambers inside of this cave system. Most of the divers were found in the third and furthest one, and one person was found more towards the entrance. And we still don't know yet why that happened, but we can kind of guess that the divers that went to the back into the third chamber most likely got disoriented and then could not find their way out. The other thing is because of the systems that they were using, and they may have also suffered from nitrous oxide poisoning and probably got disoriented and were running out of air because likely they didn't have enough air for what they were doing in the first place. And so I guess there's a lot of questions on why a very experienced diver and other experienced divers that they were working with, why they would choose the wrong equipment, go down into this cave system in the first place when it wasn't part of their research, and just how did this happen and why? And there's still most likely we're going to still get a lot of answers because there's GoPros that were recovered that we haven't seen yet or heard yet about, and there's also an additional student that did not go with the group, and I'm sure that they have more information on what happened. But in the meantime, I did want to look into the energy, particularly of the divers and what they were thinking before and what they were thinking sort of during and at the time that they passed, and see if there's anything that I could do to sort of lend more clarity to the situation. As a note, um, a sixth person did pass away, someone that was a member of the rescue team. So it's a pretty sad tragedy all around. Um, but we're going to look particularly at the five people that were involved in the initial cave diving. And okay, so one is Monica Montifalcone, 51. Okay, so she's the person who led the research group, and she's an associate professor of marine ecology at the University of Genoa. And her daughter, and this is really sad, her daughter, Georgia, was a biomedical engineering student also at the same university, and they had done like 500 dives together, apparently. So I kind of want to know, we're going to just first look at Monica's and her reasoning. I feel like my intuition tells me that she was the one that made the decisions of where the team was going. Okay, let's get this set up really nice and clear. Okay. So I want to know why the decision was made to go into the caves, or was it an accident? Were they diving deeper than they should have for some reason, or did they come back to go to the caves? Okay, so this is about being stuck between two choices, and it wasn't initially decided. I guess she was debating on whether or not this was safe enough to do, and ultimately chose to go. Okay, there's some group dynamics here in which it seems like some of them wanted to go and some of them didn't, but she had to make the final choice, and she was conflicted. Okay. It's a little hope, a little attention, a little thinking, This is interesting energy. I guess ultimately making that decision to go. It's funny, 'cause when you think of the star, you think of night and you think of darkness. I don't know if this was made beforehand or in the moment, but I do feel this feeling of indecision and a feeling of like the group dynamics and then saying, okay, you know what, we'll go and we'll do this. Okay. Guess I want to know if this was made prior to going down. Why do I feel like they saw the cave system previously and then decided to go on a later trip, and that this trip was now for them to go? Well, okay. I think there's a conflict between her and a man in this group. Who would that be? Okay, I'm not sure exactly which man in the group. I think there was it was like her and another person that were actually supposed to be here on this trip, but I thought it was one of her students. Somebody else in the group and her are conflicting. Okay, and then she feels really responsible for the group, but another person on the team, one of the men, has like also a lot of influence on the group and what they're doing. I wonder I wonder if he's a dive instructor. Or just like she's not sure about it and then he's like, "No, don't worry, it's gonna be fine." Something along those lines. And she ends up saying, "Okay, we're just gonna trust that and we're gonna go with what you say." So interesting. Now I want to look into. I just don't understand why that's what it's kind of telling me though. I feel like someone reassured her that it would be okay even without the proper equipment, but I don't know. I feel like she's smart enough to know not to, to do it. Or was it a like last minute decision? That's like the question I have right now. Now, as a reminder, I am clairsentient, which means I primarily feel energy, which makes it really hard. I don't do as good of a job of getting like distinct details, although I do, try to go off my intuition, and I do have claircognizance, but it's not something that I can turn on and off. Um, Usually it feels sort of like a confirmation ping in the back of my head, and sometimes I get the signs and symbols and things like that, but I mostly can feel, and what I felt was conflict and disagreement and reassurance and just going, okay, we're just gonna do it. I don't know if that was a thing made as a group or just between her and somebody else in private. Okay. So not seeing into the future. I have gotten this before as like not really fully seeing the full consequences. Again, this is like interesting with this male energy. Okay. Yeah. Someone on here was really adamant about doing this and was really unhappy at the idea of not doing it, not quite seeing the consequences of what would happen. I don't I don't know why if there's like a little bit of like an ego thing. Um, okay. In respect of the people who lost their lives, I don't want to make any sort of character judgments, but it does feel a little bit like there's um just I guess there's just a butting heads, and some people are thinking a little bit more about the goal of wanting to go to this cave system, it's really cool. We're gonna learn something. This is a unique opportunity. We really shouldn't pass it up. That is like overriding the logic of whether or not this can be done. And I think there was something about not being able to, like, not having the proper equipment, or like we have to just do with what we have. Was it something that the boat was not? Wait, I think I read something that the boat was not equipped to use this like advanced diving equipment. So it was like, we're here, we have this opportunity, we don't have the full equipment, so we're gonna just have to go with what we have, and we can do it. And some of us can go deeper, and we can guide the others because we're very experienced. And there's some like overriding of the like actual dangers, because the prospect of doing it is just so cool and so interesting that we want to do it. And I think that like the people who wanted to do it overrided her, like particularly her, the professor that was in charge. She was like, oh, okay, we're just gonna go and do it. And yeah, it's one of those where it's like entirely preventable. But the way that I'm feeling the energy is that when you're like in a group dynamic, it can get very overwhelming when certain members, when there's like when you're outvoted by other people and you're in a group that, I don't know how to explain it, but human beings, when you're in a group of people, your logic does go out the window. And I don't know, like, we're just so wired to go with group consensus that, you knowing that this might be dangerous and maybe we shouldn't do it, if everybody else is like, no, it's fine, and this guy said it, and this guy said it was okay, and these guys are also in charge, and everyone, the somebody said they've done it before, or whatever, then you're more likely to be like, "Oh, guess I'm crazy, and I'm the one who's wrong, and I have to go with what the group says." And that's so unfortunate, but that's the energy I feel of, like, this kind of group pressure from somebody, or somebody that was able to convince other people, or it's either one or more, but it is this sense of that I think her in particular felt safe to do it because other people were advocating for it, and the group felt excited about it, and now I feel bad, and now I have like, I don't want to, and you can convince yourself of so many things before going in, and I feel like this is what is the energy that I'm in. You can convince yourself that, well, if it gets bad, we just turn around. Well, we're just going to go for just a minute. We won't go that long. In, out, back. It's fine. If I start to feel anything, we'll just go. If I feel like any one of them, I'm gonna look, I'm gonna pay so much attention. I've done these so many times before. Like, you can convince yourself so many things before doing it and tell yourself it's gonna be fine and it's gonna be okay. And yeah, maybe they're right. Maybe we should, take advantage of this opportunity while we're here. That's the energy of it. I'm not saying like those are all the exact things that were said, but it's that energy of, you can convince yourself of anything, and you don't want to disappoint a group of people, and you kind of make all of those statements to yourself in your head. Okay, so the other question, we're going to pull these out of the way. I want to know if they were under the effects of a lack of oxygen when they got down there, like the sort of nitrous oxide stuff, or if they were pretty clear-headed until they got to the end. We'll just say, I mean, I'm sure like at some point in the dive, but I want to know if like by the time they were at the cave system, if they were already starting to lose their ability to reason properly or something like that. Unhappiness, family unhappiness. Okay, some people starting to get uncomfortable. Balance. Hierophant. These are rules, and this is when you're going against the rules. And that's what this is. This is, I'm telling you, there's a juggling of people's expectations and stuff. I didn't ask that question. Why do the cards do this to me? I think there's a double meaning here though, where oh, some people are starting okay. So in the moment when they're there, I see what's happening here. Is that some people start diving further than they're supposed to be going. People are going further ahead than they're supposed to be going. People are going again like there's some people that don't want safety because they want to push just a little bit and like that's dangerous to do. But when you're in that moment, sometimes like there's that's that 3 of wands in reverse. It's like you're not thinking ahead. You're just so in that moment. So there are some people getting carried away. And then I think when you are trying to wrangle a group of people, I don't know, I'm in her energy a lot more, probably because I tapped into it earlier. But there's like some people want to not push the buttons and go too far, but some people already are. And to try, when you're responsible for a group of people, you can't be responsible for every single person that's moving out of the way and into the wrong direction. And there's a little bit of chaos. So it's not everybody. And it's hard to wrangle everyone. So sometimes some other people end up going further than they wanted to initially because they have to keep up with the other people and they don't want to split the group up. So the group did a good job of staying together, but it was also kind of their undoing. This is what I'm hearing in my head because if you hear like they were together the whole time. But what I'm hearing is part of that is because some people chose staying together over backing out and leaving when they knew that it was time to go. And so they all went together and they all lost their lives together, partially because of that. All right, one more question about the disorientation. Yeah, there's such a thing of like this family and group dynamics just like not working and not and, and this justice for the people who you know what I'm hearing because I think I'm channeling a little bit of I don't want to be like like okay, what I'm hearing is that not this is not everybody's fault. There's a lot of okay, so the confusion is happening. So some people start losing their capacity to reason the further we're going into the situation. Not initially, but as we get closer, further in, some people start to get the effects of nitrous oxide. But the justice card here is truly trying to remind, like this was there was not a consensus all the way through this, and some people end up suffering because of other people's decisions. And again, I really feel like trying to keep that group harmony and trying to stay together because of this idea of like safety if we're together. If you get one person even that pushes the group further than they should have went, then everybody else suffers as a consequence of that. Um, and now I want to know why four of them are in the third and furthest cave chamber and one of them isn't. See, I cannot tell you um, if it's because four people went ahead and the other person tried to go back because they realized because that could possibly be what happened. Is that one of them was like, I'm not going any further. We should have left and turned around already. And that might be what's going on in the energy here. I don't know which person was further out, but I think they probably realized before the others that like we are in danger. And the other ones went too much but they all were in trouble. So like I do think that the four of them that make it to the furthest cave chamber get stuck and realize that they can't make it out. But I do think the other person also just ran out. I think they were all sort of doomed, weren't they? Like, I don't think they had enough oxygen to do what they were doing. And they had already, there's a little sunk cost fallacy where they like already had gotten as far as they did. They were like, well, let's just go in. And they probably should have left before they even got in because they were already like running out of oxygen. I went from this side for some reason, but we're going to go with it. The Ace of Cups. Oh. The Ten of Swords. And the Sun card. That's kind of wild. Oh no. Okay. Here's what I think is happening. Um, with the effects of the nitrous oxide, or when they start losing, uh, they go from something painful and scary, but okay, I just feel like there's a point in where losing the oxygen starts to make them euphoric, or at least not really thinking through. Like there's like a point of fear, and then there's a point of euphoria. Maybe for some people. Are like maybe in the initial loss of oxygen, there is this feeling like extra feel like when you're drunk and then you lose inhibitions and then you go further than you should. So it's like they don't realize that they are in this rapid descent, and by the time it hits them, it hits them. And then there's panic, and then there's fear. Now, I'm trying to figure out what the Ace of Cups and why I flipped it first as well. But I do feel like, not to say like this guy has passed away here, but then there's this emotional renewal afterwards. I guess they passed quickly and they went immediately into peace. And I'm a firm believer in the afterlife and the spiritual world. So it's this little bit of a roller coaster, but this is also to let you know that they're at peace. There's a little dove here. I mean, it's also emotional. I mean, it's an emotional overflowing and a renewal and a new beginning and love. So I'm not entirely sure how that fits into that, but if you look at the story going on here, there's also sunlight and clarity. I kind of feel like when they saw the light in the tunnel, it gave them a false sense of security. Like, oh, we can see. And then I feel like it goes into darkness and it gets panicky. Like, I don't think they knew what to expect when they were going in, but I think they were like, oh, this is an illuminated cave, so it's not going to be that bad. And then they get into darkness and then they get stuck and it gets scary and they get confused. And then I feel like they pass. Yeah, there's not really many ways to read that other than a release after like hitting rock bottom. But, okay, we'll go with that. Okay, so that's the reading for today. I feel like the energy is really complicated. And I feel like it's a lot that's just going on so quickly and a lot of decisions being made while being unsure, and it just seems to go from moment to moment until it's too late. And I feel like there's a regret in this energy, but I also feel like there's a message that someone wants to give that says, hey, we passed, but we're okay, and we love you, and um, this wasn't on purpose, and it was a mistake, and we should have done otherwise, but um, we're sorry. But yeah, I think also, okay, so I think some of the people who, like I said, some people were going ahead or going deeper than they should or doing some things that they shouldn't have doing. I think they were feeling the effects of the lack of oxygen before everybody else did, and possibly leading to those decisions of safety. That's that energy there, and thinking like that it was okay. And I guess when you start to lose oxygen, initially you don't realize that how it's taking over you so quickly. And then some of the other people, again, when they were more clear-headed, were trying to keep the group together, and so they got pushed a little further than they should have, and they didn't turn back when they should have turned back. And by that point, they're all starting to lose oxygen, so they're all kind of making decisions that are not really that great. But part of that is just because they didn't have the mental capacity to, and then by the time they realize that it's too late and they get disoriented, and that's a bit scary, and then but it ends really quickly, and I guess they're okay now, from the on the other side. I think that's all of the message that wants to come through for this. But thank you for watching. Please subscribe. And Quentin also says thank you for watching. So, bye bye.